Welcome back to Talking Story. My name is John Minton, and today I have a complete and full review for Book 1 of the Sun Eater Saga, Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. Now, before we get started, I want to cover some ground that I've covered many a time on this channel. What do I say? Something that is 3 stars is a solid book. I would have no problem recommending that book wholeheartedly to someone, depending on their taste. 4, probably one of my favorites on my favorite shelf. Have to have a copy on my shelf. 5, a classic, I think, will stand the test of time long after I have faded to dusty death myself. This is a piece of art will still be going. I completely and 100% feel this will stand the test of time. I have not gone further in the series, but if what happens is what I suspect will happen in the series, it will absolutely stand the test of time. But even just this book on its own, I feel will stand the test of time when it's found by people. I feel like eventually this is a book that could be studied and taught and examined and looked at. So absolutely, I feel like this will withstand the test of time. So the review going forward is my personal preference into the things I read, and I will cover that as I get into the review. I just wanted to touch base on that first. My reviews work on a classic 5-star system. You are going to be able to get a quarter star all the way up to a full star in world building, plot, characters, pace, and prose. At the end of that, I'm going to stress myself out, possibly even pull a hamstring and try and do a little bit of math on the fly in my head, and whatever that comes up to is how I felt about the book. So let's get right into it with world building for Empire of Silence. This is not only grade A world building, this is galaxy building. This takes place after we have fled a dying Earth into the stars, many generations after that, into where there's a large empire that stretches across many planets. So this is not only the socioeconomic reality and the religious reality of a dying planet that spit us out into the galaxy. This is that over many planets and many social economic realities. What has happened to the nuclear family as that moves across the stars and technology takes over, coupling to the point where, families aren't built traditionally the way they are built now. What happens once a planet has died and the religion has to face that fact and still keep that old Earth feel at the center of the universe, because that's how the religion feels like they have to keep moving forward and stay relevant. All these questions, all these things, architecture, space travel, different species. This is world building, empire building to the nth degree. There's no rock left unturned to every level and strata of world building across this galactic empire, all the way down through the brutal bread and circuses coliseum that people thrill to for entertainment, all the way up to how they study and learn philosophy. Every single thing in this far-flung future is covered and creatively and covered well, and you completely buy in because it is so entirely complete. So I absolutely have to give world building for Empire of Silence a full star. Now, let's move into plot. Plot, this is very much a personal, internal journey of one character. As we've moved into the stars and we've moved past the dying planet of Earth and spread ourselves out across the galaxy here, as we've gone further and further from our human experience where we come from in this Earth, we have our history, our very history and where we come from and who we are has become hazy, to where our legends and myths have become amalgamated. There are many times that the main character in this, whose journey we're following, Hadrian Marlowe, refers to a hero from Misty Path C-I-D, Arthur, and the travails that hero went through on their journey. Cid Arthur is an amalgamation of Arthur from Arthurian legends and Siddhartha, the royal that went on a spiritual journey that eventually became the Buddha. So the journey that Hadrian Marlowe is going on, to a large extent, parallels and mirrors Siddhartha's journey. He leaves his aristocratic reality from his parents and from his home, and he goes out and he examines and becomes a part of the sick and the poor, and he becomes a teacher. So all of this, the plot, if you will, is very much an internal, philosophical, spiritual journey of one man as he moves along and mirrors the spiritual and journey to enlightenment of Siddhartha. And it was absolutely fascinating, and the philosophy behind it is jaw-dropping, and that it was all put together by a very young writer is even more gobsmacking to me. But as far as plot, that has a driving arc of rising action and falling action, and there are things towards the end that I don't want to spoil for you that would lead you to believe going forward into books 2 and on, there could be that plot that puts its foot on the accelerator and pushes you forward. This is much more of a slow burn, singular internal meditation of one character as he comes to understand his reality, his world, and his self on a physical and spiritual level. So is the plot driving you and pushing you? I myself did not feel it, while at the same time I was taken by this journey of the main central character. It didn't necessarily feel like I was being pushed by story or moved by plot. It was very much one event to the next as this singular character made his journey from one incident to the next. So, for plot, I am going to take a little bit off because for me, it did not push me or move me the way a plot generally does through a story because of what I just described. So for plot, I am going to go 3/4 star and take just a little bit off. Character. The character of Hadrian Marlowe, which this entire thing revolves around, is entirely, completely realized. Three-dimensional. You can completely grasp onto him and go on this journey with him as he seeks enlightenment and understanding. The characters around him and the relationships he builds with those characters start off with his own nuclear family, and they're somewhat estranged, and then it moves on as he leaves them and goes on to other planets and begins his journey. I feel like the rest of the characters, to a large extent, were icons or representations of the ills of society. You're going to meet people that are downtrodden and see no other way out through their destitute and poverty life than fighting in the Colosseum, or someone that is going to have to succumb to a plague because they're in a social strata that just has absolutely no chance at healthcare, living outside society. All of these I did not feel an emotional connection to, because I felt, even though I was completely connected to Hadrian Marlowe, these characters that he was coming in contact with as he goes on his very internal singular journey are representations of the ills of our civilization, the downfalls of what happen as more and more people come together and live together in a society, and what happens when those that rule those groups of people that are coming together and live in a society have to make these decisions of how they're going to rule and what the rules are going to be. I found them not to be entirely realized to where I had an emotional connection to them through the relationship of Hadrian Marlowe to them. I just found them to be somewhat representational. So there was a lack of emotionality for me. Hadrian Marlowe, I believe, upon my reading, it looked to me like he is a avatar, a stand-in for Christopher Rocchio himself. The person that wrote this at this age is going to pretty much be the smartest cat in any room I could imagine him being in a lot of the time. Hadrian Marlowe is the same. Even though he's a very young person being pushed away from his family and going on this journey, he is still very much the smartest cat in the room a lot of times. So I found it somewhat difficult at times to connect with him because I'm not the smartest cat in the room, and I didn't have the emotional connection to the characters around him because, again, I thought they were kind of like shadows on Plato's cave. They were telling me a story, but they were somewhat flat and just shadow puppetry. I didn't get a sense of a life lived. I got a sense of them representing something that Hadrian was having to examine and come to grips with. Until the end. At the very end, he does meet some people, the good doctor, the archaeologist that starts to uncover mysteries, and he starts to meet people like Switch that I feel like as he goes forward, he met fighting in the Colosseum when he spent his time as a gladiator there. I feel they're going to be his crew moving forward, and we're going to start to have in books 2 and onward emotional relationships that do resonate, that do take a toll when something happens to somebody. So I see that situation being answered and rectified going forward in books because of how the end of this book was and the characters we were meeting by the end. But for a vast majority of the first, I would say 3/4 of the book, I didn't have that emotionality. And what I was feeling very much as far as characters go is it was from my passive theater, there's like an Arthur Miller play that it's like you're watching a mirror, you're watching through a window, real life, real characters, and you can't help but be connected to them because you see yourself in them. And then there's like a Brechtian play where the playwright is saying, I don't want you to connect to my characters. I want to show you something about the world and the reality you live in so you maybe think about something and learn something after you leave the theater. To me, this unfolded very much like a Brecht play. And that's kind of how I saw it just from my past history. So, character for me, it was missing a little bit of that emotionality of all the characters around the central character of Hadrian Marlowe. So I'm going to take, again, a 1/4 point off, and character is going to come in at 3/4 star. Pace. Where am I on pace? I can't give a whole star for pace. The reason being is because being such an introspective, philosophical, singular journey of Hadrian Marlowe. Again, I didn't feel the plot pushing me, and that's generally what causes me to turn pages late into the night later than I should. So the pace at times could slow down a little bit for me. So I am going to take just a 1/4 star off for pace as well and bring that in at 3/4 stars. So where does that leave us of the 5 categories? That just leaves us with prose. What did I think of the prose of young Mr. Christopher Rocchio when he wrote this? I believe he was somewhere between 18 and 19. Oh my God. So let me just give you a little taste of the prose. I had to mark something. There was so many times, not only did he relay to me a path of enlightenment of a central character that mirrored Siddhartha's as he moved to become the Buddha, not only did he show me shadows on Plato's cave wall, characters representing every ill of society as he moved through this journey, he did it with some of the most astoundingly beautiful language that would make me stop and think on some of the deepest philosophical levels that a book has moved me to do in quite some time. Maybe all the way back to reading Emile Zola's The Masterpiece. But let me just hit you up with a little bit. We live in stories. And in stories, we are subject to the phenomena beyond the mechanisms of space and time. Fear and love, death and wrath, and wisdom. These are as much parts of our universe as light and gravity. The ancients called them gods, for we are their creatures, shaped by their winds. Sift the sands of every world and sort the dust of space between them, and you will find not one atom of fear, nor gram of love, nor dram of hatred. Yet they are there, unseen and uncertain as the smallest quanta and just as real. And like the smallest quanta, they are governed by principles beyond our control. What? That goes over there while I have to sift through my head movies for a minute to figure that out. Like, wow, are you kidding me? I can't give a full star to prose fast enough. Thought-provoking, intellectually moving, stimulating, personal, individualistic journey to understanding and enlightenment. Why will this stand the test of time? Because if some Eastern philosophy people find this, it should be taught every day on campuses everywhere. So I absolutely am going to have to give prose a full star. I wish I could give it more. So where does that leave us? If we put all those things in the hopper and add them together, what are we going to come up with for Empire of the Silent Sun Eater Saga Book 1 by Christopher Rocchio? If my math is good, and it is because I cheated and did it before I did this video, we are at 4.25 stars. So, a bit of a cheat for me because I do think this is 5 stars as so far as it will stand the test of time. But just for my personal preferences and things I like to read, a little bit of a pace slowdown, a little bit less emotionality, and I like to see from character relationships, and a little less plot to push on the accelerator and move me. But still, in all, 4.25, that's on my favorites list. That means I am absolutely so glad I ordered a physical copy because it will live on my shelf for a long, long time. And after I take a little bit of a respite for my brain from this, I will be starting again in the Sun Eater Saga with the novella between books 1 and 2 of The Lesser Devil, and then moving right into book 2 as quickly as I can after that. So I do feel like I expect, and you let me know, because I know a lot of you have read this, I expect moving forward that we're going to have more plot. I think we're going to have more emotionality. I think we're going to have higher stakes than just the individualistic journey that 3/4 of this book deals with. And I cannot wait to get to it. That is it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed stopping by. Give me all your thoughts. Let me know if I was anywhere near the ballpark with your experiences reading this, or if you have not read this, if this moved you to read it or moved you to never read it. Let me know. I love comments. I will answer them right away. If you're new, if this is the first time you've stopped by and you kind of dig it, hey, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here a couple times, go ahead and subscribe. It just feels like the right thing to do. I promise you, you hit that button, you click it, it feels good. It helps us do everything we do here on the channel. So thank you again. Thank you, Christopher Rocchio, for putting your blood, sweat, and tears, your creativity, your talent, your gifts to share with us in this book. And thank you for stopping by. My name has been John Minton, and this has been Talking Story.